Bernie Sanders gave an excellent speech on the floor of the Senate last week, excoriating employers like Elon Musk who exploits immigrant guest workers and U.S.-born workers.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
All right, let's go ahead and jump right into Last Week in Southern Labor. Last Week in Southern Labor is a segment that we do every week where we take a look at what U.S. workers, what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to. Here's what they were up to from January 10th to the 17th. In new union campaigns, 11 workers at McAllister Oil in Memphis, Tennessee, filed for a union election with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 667. 19 workers at Mulzer Crushed Stone Incorporated in Owensboro, Kentucky, filed for a union election with the Central Midwest Regional Council of the Carpenters Union. 8 workers at Dominion Energy, South Carolina in North Charleston, South Carolina, filed for a union election with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, Local 398. 23 workers employed by Nexstar Media Incorporated, doing business as News Nation at its facility in Washington, D.C., filed for a union election with Local 12,000 of the IBEW. 6 workers at Lakeshore Recycling Systems, LLC, in Mayflower, Arkansas, filed for a union election with the Teamsters Local 373. In San Juan, Puerto Rico, there is a raid happening between two unions to represent 265 security guards at MaxCent on the government contract for the Department of Protective Services. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the building materials, excavating, heavy haulers, drivers, and warehousemen and helpers, Local 541. My guess is they're a Teamsters affiliate, but I don't know, which represents 10 workers at Martin Marietta Materials in Greenwood, Missouri. At the same employer, there's a petition to decertify the Heavy Construction Laborers Local 663, which represents 9 other workers there. In election results, 215 workers at the U.S. Government Publishing Office in Washington, D.C. voted in favor of unionization with the Teamsters. Workers voted 16-3 to certify the ICWUC Local 191T of the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, as the union at Gaylord Chemical in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. 12 workers at Texas Public Radio voted 7-5 to unionize with SAG-AFTRA. 19 workers at Intelitex in Augusta, Georgia, voted 15-4 to unionize with the Industrial Division of the Communication Workers of America, IUECWA. IUECWA picked up another win in Augusta, Georgia, with 6 workers at ASJ Solutions, another IT company, voting 4-0 in favor of unionization. Workers tied 2-2 at Chase Carson and White LLC in Research Park, Triangle, North Carolina, meaning that the Industrial, Technical, and Professional Employees Union Local 4873, an OPEIU affiliate, will not be certified as the union there. Metropolitan District 1199 D.C., National Union of Hospital and Healthcare Employees, at an AFSCME affiliate, withdrew their petition to represent 30 workers at Unity Healthcare in Washington, D.C. And workers at Republic Services in Calhoun, Georgia, voted unanimously against decertification of the union Teamsters Local 728. So the union will continue to represent the 39 workers there. The decertification appears driven by the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, and the employer was represented by notorious law firm Littler Mendelson. That's amazing that they got 0 votes to decertify the union. Because you have to get signatures on the petition to even have an election. That's crazy. Looks like Teamsters Local 618 withdrew their petition to represent 6 workers at United Pacific in Melville, Missouri.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In strikes and bargaining updates, 430 Cisco Teamsters out of Local 988 in Houston, Texas, went on strike Friday, as far as I can tell. They said that they would strike Friday if they didn't get a deal, and I have not seen word of a deal, but I also haven't seen confirmation of a strike, so not totally sure what's going on there. Cisco has refused to give the workers a fair contract. The Teamsters say a strike at Cisco in Houston would have widespread effects, disrupting deliveries to schools, universities, hospitals, and local businesses. classes. Allegiant Air pilots unionized with Teamsters Local 2118 withstood below freezing temperatures for a practice picket outside of Asheville Regional Airport. As negotiations stall with the carrier, the Teamsters represent 1,300 of these pilots who voted 97.4% to authorize a strike if the carrier fails to give them a good offer. The Teamsters say Allegiant pilots make 40% less than the industry standard. Workers trying to organize a union at Amazon's KCVG Air Hub in Kentucky are pushing for the company to excuse all missed time for the recent snowstorm, even because apparently employees had to use personal time even when it was unsafe to drive to work. Workers at Alamo Draft House, unionized in Austin, Texas, with Draft House United, an IWW affiliate, say that the company has, without warning, fired 25% of all workers nationwide. This comes after the company was sold to private equity and then to Sony for some reason. National Nurses United, NNU, held a nationwide day of action, including at several locations across the South, including in Alabama, in support of safe staffing levels and patient protections against AI. The union is doing this as more than 100,000 NNU members are entering contract negotiations with their employers this year. 4,200 CSX railroad workers represented by the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division, BMWED, of the Teamsters Rail Conference ratified a new contract. Last week, the new 5-year agreement secures raises of 18.77% compounded over the life of the contract, a reduction in the time needed to accumulate vacation, improved health and welfare benefits, and improvements to local work rules, according to the union. 40 home care therapists and assistants employed by Alternate Health Solutions Network, AHSN, members of CWA Local 2252, held a one-day unfair labor practice strike last week. The workers have been negotiating for 4 months, and the company's last offer was 57 cents, a 0.5 to 1% wage raise for the workers, while prices have gone up 25%. Approximately 200 stage workers at the Altria Theater, Dominion Energy Center, and John Paul Jones Arena in Virginia are preparing for a potential strike as negotiations with management company ASM Global have failed to result in a new contract. Represented by the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, IATSE Local 87, crew members have been engaged in over 6 months of contract negotiations seeking fair wages and benefits. Currently, the base rate for a stagehand at ASM's Richmond venues remains below $20 an hour, which is crazy. IATSE stagehands in Huntsville make more than that, placing the Richmond area among the lowest paying markets in the region for stagehands. This has led to difficulty attracting and retaining skilled workers in the industry, obviously. Worse, over the past 6 years, workers have received minimal 1% annual raises. The American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE, is supporting a trio of bills that would provide a 4.3% raise to federal workers, fix problems with COLA, and prevent Schedule F. The Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, Local 1546, is in contract negotiations with the Baton Rouge, Louisiana's Capital Area Transit System, with the union accusing management of bad faith bargaining. In political and legislative updates, the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, issued a hopeful statement as news of a ceasefire in Gaza was announced, saying SEIU's 2 million members stand united in the hope that today's long overdue ceasefire agreement finally returns hostages to their loved ones and begins to put us on a path towards finding a long-term solution that will bring safety, peace, democracy, and justice to all in the region. The details of this ceasefire agreement will be critical given the horrific violence in Gaza. When Trump's ostensibly pro-labor Department of Labor pick was announced, there was reporting at the time that Trump's team was going around assuaging business fears by saying that the business community will like the deputy secretary. Well, that pick has been announced. Keith Sonderling. Lauren Gurley with the Washington Post reports that business groups are, quote, thrilled with the pick, and that he has been a proponent of a, quote, deregulatory DOL agenda. Even the ostensibly pro-labor Lori Chavez de Reamer, the secretary pick, whose appointment was pushed by Teamsters president Sean O'Brien, met last week with McDonald's and Wendy's representatives, among others, where she heard their, quote, concerns over the joint employer portions of the bill, of the PRO Act. which, it's important to remember, are the same provisions of the bill that she herself voiced, quote, concern over, and the same provisions of the bill that kept her from co-sponsoring the PRO Act for a long time, and yet is the provision of the bill that is probably the most important for the Teamsters as they escalate their campaign to organize Amazon. Chavez-DeRemer also voted to nullify joint employer standards specifically. Bernie Sanders gave an excellent speech on the floor of the Senate last week, excoriating employers like Elon Musk who exploit immigrant guest workers and U.S.-born workers. Recommend listening to that if you have the time. The city of Birmingham, Alabama became the first in the state to pass a local hire ordinance, ensuring federal infrastructure investments benefit local workers directly. Jobs to Move America, a major backer of the ordinance, says this means that 30% of labor hours on city-funded construction projects will go to Birmingham area workers. 15% of hours will be completed by apprentices in certified training programs, and it prioritizes equity by removing barriers for underserved communities. The Federal Trade Commission, chaired by Lena Khan, is going out with a flurry of activity in her final week. They issued a report detailing how dead CEO Brian Thompson's company United Healthcare overcharged some cancer patients for drugs by more than 1,000%. The company's pharmacy benefit manager, along with its peers, pocketed an extra $73 billion thanks to price gouging, according to the FTC report. They also filed a lawsuit against John Deere, saying the company is generating $6 billion by prohibiting farmers from repairing their own equipment. The AFL-CIO will not be making an endorsement in the DNC race, while still saying they are, quote, laser-focused on working closely with DNC leaders to lift up working people across geography and ideology so that together we can fight off anti-union attacks from billionaire bosses and advance an agenda that will grow the labor movement. The RWDSU and UFCW, however, are endorsing Ken Martin from Minnesota, and AFSCME, AFT, NEA, and SEIU all endorsed Ben Wickler of Wisconsin. In internal union affairs, the United Auto Workers, UAW, held their national Ford and sub-council meetings in Chattanooga last week to strategize for the upcoming year, and Railroad Workers United is hiring a membership organizer. If we missed anything, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact, and we can include it in next week's Roundup.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.
Which side are you on?